Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Spiritual Growth Journeys. I am Kimberly Palm. If you're new to this channel, I am a spiritual teacher, healer, ascension guide, counselor, life coach, health coach, business coach, whatever, everything. Been coaching, counseling people since 1995. Long time, using my intuitive abilities and psychic abilities and all my experience and learning I've done my whole life. So for those of you who are new, that's what I do, and have my 3 books as well that I've written, Ascension 101, The Real Fountain of Youth, and Walking with Yeshua and Mary Magdalene. So welcome to this channel. If you are new, if you are somebody who's been following me, welcome back, and we're glad to have you. And today's topic is basically the toxic, how do we want to say it? The divine feminine and masculine versus the toxic feminine and masculine archetypes. We are going to talk about that today with Wendie Kingsford. And the reason we are talking about this is because going back probably 11,500 years ago, when the Draco took over, they started poisoning men very slowly over time and creating what we call a patriarchy, where it's male dominated, women are garbage, women have no value. And they just slowly did it over time, more and more and more and more, especially with their 3 religions they created, Judaism, then Christianity, then Islam. Those religions, women were always second-class citizens. And that is all part of a plan that they've had to completely corrode and corrupt men and corrode and corrupt women and destroy our civilization as we know it. And the last 100 years, I was just checking in actually with Wendie before I started recording this and asking my team, and they're telling me that it really, really kicked off 100 years ago, where they really started going after men and trying to demasculinize men completely. Might as well neuter and castrate all of them, because that's what they're working on. And then turning women into men and just creating a disaster, splitting up families like crazy, just splitting up families. It's just horrible, making it so humans can't procreate. It's all part of their depopulation agenda too, because if they take a woman and they make her take her uterus out, she's not having a baby, because she thinks she's going to be a man instead of a woman. So is she going to have a baby in her belly? No. So then they take these men and then they turn them into women, and they castrate them and do all this stuff and make fake, parts and stuff. And those men can't have babies, and they're totally demasculinated to the point where, they're not of any use if, God forbid, there's an emergency, because they're, they are going to run and hide, So they've ruined our society. They've downgraded us to this apocalyptic mess that we're in now, where the country, and this is a thing that just happened, the country of Spain has just basically legalized bestiality. And so we're in end times. This was all over the news today about Spain. And we're in end times. They're pushing really sick agendas. And so today we're going to talk about the history of this, where it's come from. And this is because Wendie and I were having a chat on the phone about this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is such a great topic. We need to discuss it. So Wendie Kingsford is with me today, and her and I have had actually some past lifetimes together. One in ancient Egypt. It was pretty interesting. And Wendie is, let me tell you about Wendie. Wendie, at age 3 years old, began communicating with spirits. She is an ascension guide, just like me. And she began communicating with spirits at age 3. Her father raised her in the teachings of the Essenes. She is now an Isis priestess, a Reiki master, a certified aura hypnosis practitioner, and raw Reiki healer. The one cool thing about Wendie is she can help you with your past lifetime stuff. She actually did a whole soul session for me, and it was awesome. I loved it. Thank you for that. And she can go in and she can look at issues and blocks and things you have going on now because of past lifetime stuff. She's able to help you identify that. That's something I don't do. I have a past lifetime kind of self-hypnosis or guided meditation I created that's on my website, but I don't do hypnotherapy. I don't go in and look at everybody's past lives. I mean, I can tell people where, you know, who you were in your past life, what you were, where you were located, and what year it was, or, you know, when it was. But as far as going in and actually talking to your higher self and having a conversation, that is something that Wendie is excellent at. She went in and she talked to my higher self and went and looked at, actually she saw, I think you got pretty emotional, didn't you, when you saw, she didn't realize that I had this life. I think what you didn't know that, right? That I had this life with Yeshua and Mary Magdalene and all that. And you were going in, you just wanted to look at a past life. And all of a sudden you see me with Yeshua dripping blood on me, and I'm cleaning his wounds, and he's, you know, on the cross, and, you know, I'm trying to clean his wounds, and I've got blood dripping. And you said, I think you said you got nauseated when you saw what I went through.
From seeing the blood dripping from the on the cross, dripping
Yeah.
down. Yeah, but
Yeah.
you were there.
Yep.
I did.
Yeah. And so anyway, so she saw that, and she didn't even know that that was, you know, I didn't tell her anything about myself. So it's not like she was cheating or anything, and she knew that I lived back then at that time, but she saw me doing that. So anyway, so we decided to have this little chat today. And here's what I think. I think that back 11,500 years ago, when the Draco took over, from that point on, they started attacking men and turning them into this toxic, parasitic male archetype instead of the divine masculine that's supposed to be here. What I believe the divine masculine is it's similar to what Christ represents. So keep in mind, you all, that the office of the Christ is not just men, it's also women. It's equally balanced. So Mother Mary is part of the office of the Christ. Mary Magdalene is part of the office of the Christ. And what we call Christ consciousness is the consciousness level that they are at. So we are going right now on Earth from a third density fear consciousness to a fifth density, first fourth density love consciousness, fifth density what I call an ascended consciousness, where you remember who you were. You have all your telepathic and other abilities back, that type of thing. First, you got to go up to the 4, though. 4 is, you know, unconditional love and seeing your connection to all the other humans on Earth, unity consciousness, the fact that I'm not any better or different or any more special or important than you are, and vice versa. That's all fourth density. Fifth density is the next level, which is more of the psychic. And then beyond that, Christ consciousness is at ninth density. So the density of Christ consciousness is ninth density. And the office of the Christ is a position, and there are many members that are members of that. The Buddha is part of the office of the Christ. Maitreya, Serapis Bey, Sanat Kumara, you know, all of these beings are all part of that, you know, office of the Christ. And so in the office of the Christ, you've got Yeshua, who embodied the divine masculine. And then you've got Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary, who were the sisterhood of the rose and embodied the divine feminine archetype. And so to me, the divine masculine is all about protecting the family, protecting the women and children, you know, doing the work, creating, you know, cities and building houses and doing the farming, and then, you know, protecting the family. And the wife is all about the nurturing and the food, you know, providing the meals and taking care of the family and doing all of the spiritual work. Because okay, so for those of you who haven't heard my story before, I'm going to tell it. I went to Greece in last October, and we went to this place that they call the Palace of Kenosis. It's on the island of Crete, or Crete as they call it in English. And on the island of Crete, they have this huge area, Kenosis, and they have all of these buildings that are from, I want to say, many thousands of years ago. These were from the ancient Minoans, what are called the Minoans, which were the first Europeans. It was actually like the first European settlement, basically, in the Greek islands. And they call it the Palace of Kenosis, and they, in our American history or in our American schools, they teach all wrong information about Greeks, completely wrong. Okay, because when you go on a tour of Greece and you have historians that are there, actual Greek people who are historians who teach you about what went on in each of the locations, all of their information is completely different from what we're being told here in the West or in America. We're being told all lies in school. They're teaching lies, lies, and more lies. And it starts with the Encyclopedia Britannica and all that kind of stuff. The British are the first ones to start spreading those. The British Empire, the crown started spreading all the lies and creating the lies about the history. They were the first ones actually to pervert the history, was the British Empire, of everything. And so then it crossed over into the Americas and Canada, and America and Canada also perverts all of the history and teaches wrong history. And so when you go and you travel the world and you learn from people who actually live in those areas, you find out that it's completely different story than what you're hearing in the US or in the UK or in Canada or Australia, which are all the crown, what we call the crown dominated provinces or countries, the countries that were occupied by the crown. Those all have different historical facts. So the one thing I learned when I was at the Palace of Kenosis is it's not a palace at all. It is actually a religious complex, and it was a spiritual center where people from all over the Greece and all over that part of Europe would come on pilgrimages for spiritual purposes. And then there was a whole community, spiritual community living there. And the women were the priestesses in the temples. And then in our books, they teach you that there's this King Minos guy, Minos, Minos, like the Minoans, who is the head of the people, and they make a picture of him with like a beard and all this stuff. Well, that's all a lie. There was no King Minos. Minos was actually the title for the head priestess of the temple there. She was Minos. There was no man in charge. And when you go to Kenosis, your jaw will drop when you look at the pictures, the pictographs of their story that are all over the buildings, which show all the men working. They're dark. Their skin is like tan dark, really dark, because they're in the sun all day long. They're working in the fields and they're plowing and they're farming and they're building things and they're doing what they do. And the women had really lily white skin. They depict all the women with lily white skin, like me, really, really ghostly white. And the men all had dark skin because the men were outside all day. The women were inside all day, tending to the temples, tending the flame, doing the sacred ceremonies every day. They were almost like nuns, kind of ancient nuns, doing all their priestess activity, cooking, of course, sewing, making clothing, taking care of the children. That is what they did. What did the men do? They did hunting and gathering and building and protecting. That is what they did. And that is a balance of the divine masculine and divine feminine, because women are born with the intuition. There's a term called women's intuition. Women are naturally the spiritual beings, and men reside. I always tell people this because I do chakra balancing and healing on people. Men reside in their lower chakras. Okay, so they're in the sacral chakra and in the root chakra. The root chakra is all about security, safety, money, providing protection, that kind of thing. The sacral is all about the, sex and relationships and all that kind of thing. Women, we're in our heart, our throat, and our third eye. That's where we tend to reside, is our heart, our throat, and our third eye. Men also tend to be very developed in their solar plexus. There's very few men I meet who have really low self-esteem. I mean, there are some men who have low self-esteem, but most men have a pretty developed or even overdeveloped, sometimes, if they have a big ego, solar plexus. Women, on the other hand, what I notice is normal women have issues with and blocks with their solar plexus, because that's all part of this toxic thing that has been created. And so in all of because I've studied ancient religions, I've been studying world religions going all the way back to high school and college. I've been studying archaeology since I was a kiddo because my parents were obsessed with that and astronomy. We love going to, with the telescopes, the observatories all over the place, and we'd go look at the stars. And my mom was an ET. She was very out of place. And she told me we were put here by ETs, by the way, that meant that humans were edited by ETs. My mom taught me that. So my whole thing has always been, and my father was the history buff, and he got me to become a history buff. So I've been studying history, archaeology, astronomy, all these things since I was a really wee babe. And as a result, what have I learned? Well, I have learned that everything they've been telling us is lies, especially when you're psychic and you know the truth and you can see the truth. It's just amazing how crazy it is. And then I became a travel agent several years ago. And back about, let me think about this, back in 2016, I went back to school and to college and got certified to be a travel agent. And I had to learn all the geography and all of that. And I had to learn some history with that as well. And then I've been traveling the world since I was about 20 years old. I've been traveling all over the world. And what I have learned is that in every ancient culture, the women were always all the priestesses and the heads of the religion, and the men were always doing the farming, the hunting, all of that. And that is how it was until the Draco reptilians came in and took everything over. They hate humans and they want to destroy us and depopulate us. So what's the best way to do that? Turn men into toxic males and turn females into toxic females, break apart families, make men want to become women, which they started really heavily pushing, but they really started pushing this agenda about 100 years ago, a little more than 100 years ago. To actually, honestly, what I heard from my guides when I was talking to Wendie earlier is that this started with the suffragette movement. That was the moment when the cabal started making women into these feminazi kind of women, you know, trying to turn women against men, make women man haters. You see so much hate against men where they're just bashing men and bashing men and bashing men. And then in the school system, they're taking 5-year-olds and having trans people come into the schools and talk to the little kids and even show them. I saw a video where they were showing them graphic pictures of how you can get a wiener sewn on. And I mean, they're doing this and the parents are allowing it. And so they're pushing this agenda because what happens is when you have your uterus removed, you can't have a baby. When you have your, you know what, removed, you can't have. So it helps with the depopulation. And it also makes it so that they can control us, enslave us, and manipulate us even more. Because if the men are not divine masculine, they're not protecting their wives and the children. What does that mean? That means that the pedopsychopaths that run this world can murder, rape, and kill more children and abduct more children because the men are not doing their guardianship. They're not protecting those children properly. Because if the men of this world were to be remasculinated again and take back their divine masculine and go after all those psychopaths, they wouldn't be able to do what they've been doing. And so part of how they've been succeeding in taking 9 million children every single year off of Earth. Just in the US alone, they take 800,000 kids a year, something like that. 800,000 or 900,000 kids each year, but I heard it's 8 or 9 million every year from worldwide. And they wouldn't be able to do this if men weren't so damn demasculinated by these psychopaths. So Wendie, can you share with me and everybody in our audience, when did you first find out? And by the way, I'm going to point something out really quick before we talk. I am not an interviewer. I've had many people come on videos and say rude remarks like, oh, you didn't let the guests speak and you're not interviewing them properly and da-da-da. I'm not a journalist. I'm not an interviewer. I only have people on my show once in a while. It's usually friends and we're having a discussion. I just wanted to point that out because I'm sick and tired of all the people coming on and ratting on me saying, you didn't let your guests talk. We wanted to hear all about them. Well, that's not what this channel is about. I'm a teacher and I'm a counselor and I'm going to teach and counsel because it's what I do. I'm not an interviewer. I'm not a journalist. And when I have a guest on my show, we're having a conversation. I'm not interviewing them. So if you're going to put a little comment about you didn't interview them properly, you're going to get deleted and you're going to get blocked from my channel. Just go to some other channel. If you're expecting me to interview people on my channel and be a Nicholas Vignon or one of those other people who have people on their channel and that's all they do is interview them, this is not this channel. I'm here to teach and to counsel people. I'm not here to interview. So I just wanted to point that out because I got attacked on my last video when I had on Simone talking about detox, and somebody's saying you didn't let her talk. Well, first of all, we talked equally the same amount on the video. She talked. In fact, I actually did let her talk quite a bit more than me. But did I interview her? No, because we were just having a conversation. And so if you're looking for that type of channel, this is not the channel for you. So I just wanted to point that out. So Wendie, when did you first discover that the divine, all the stuff about the masculine and the feminine, and can you please tell everybody what your description of divine feminine versus toxic feminine is, and divine masculine versus toxic masculine? Can you please, I guess, give everybody a description, and then also tell everybody, when did you first learn about all this?
Well, I think you covered what divine masculine is. That would be
Yeah.
the love and the support and this strong strength without overpowering, and love without smothering, and sort of like, well, like our children, like we're our sons, when they're young, that they're growing up into the divine masculine. And I think when, for me, the toxic femininity was passed on from mother to daughter, and embodying that for a while, and just only knowing that is my way to deal with the world, and became a defense. And raising sons is really what shifted that for me, because I saw how I was taught to treat men. And when I had my babies, my boys, I couldn't imagine somebody treating my son the way I was taught to treat men. And so it taught me to look inside a little bit deeper, go a little bit deeper, keep going, keep going. You're going to find that. And eventually I was able to see the difference between the toxic femininity and the divine femininity, and how I think a lot of these traits are, like I said, passed on from the maternal line, but it's also reinforced in our society, where we feel like, well, if we don't have the support we need, or the man protecting us, of course, as women, we can protect ourselves, but there's a duality there that needs to happen. And in order for a woman to truly feel safe and explore her femininity, it's a divine masculine by her side is very helpful. I wouldn't have been able to open up to the realms I've opened up to without the husband I have now. And he really does embody that divine masculine. And he's kind, and he's loving, and he's supportive. And I've learned to treat men the way that I would want my children, my sons, to be treated. And let's see, I have some notes about the different archetypes, and to go through each archetype, and you can see where inverted, how it is like the crone, like she's not appreciated in society anymore. It's just, you're worthless. Once you're older, you're worthless. There's no wisdom there. None of that matters in society. There's like the virgin. She becomes the victim when she's inverted. So all these different archetypes can be inverted, and we can carry these with us. And until we repair that within ourselves, society's not going to help. But until we repair that within ourselves and embody who we really are, I think society is going to continue with this problem. But I do know Gaia is raising her frequency. And as she raises her frequency, we're all waking up. And I think it's falling away. This toxic masculinity is slowly falling away. But there are forces out there, the Draco reptilian agenda, that is trying to keep that in our society and keep us down. And if they could play us against each other, that works for them, because then they feed on our lower energies.
Absolutely. So you said you had notes kind of showing the difference. So did you want to kind of go over what you've got? And then I can fill in any blanks I see that you might have missed, because I want to hear from you what, how do you look at this? Because you obviously got some great information on that. So
Well, you take like the notes I took, the lover is
Mm.
another archetype, and that would be the sensual, the passionate, um, pleasure, different. Yeah, that it kind of embodies that. But if you invert that, it becomes manipulative, using sex to get what you want. And I see that a lot. In fact, when I was, well, maybe 12, 15 years ago, I was told that I didn't know how to treat men. I needed to treat them the way they treat women, and that I needed to use them the way that they use women. And I just felt I ended up leaving. But the way that the women in society, it's okay to treat men so horribly. And I really feel like that keeps them down, that we need to, that's somebody's son,
Mhm.
He has a mother too. And his mother would be so sad to see him treated that way. So I just see my own son and my sons in other men, so that it reminds me that there's something divine and beautiful there. And I don't want to use men. I think that society really pushes that on us.
Mhm. So what is a description for you of what I call the toxic female, like as far as all of her characteristics and personality flaws or whatever you want to call them? What do you see them as? Because I know what I see them as, but I want to hear what you see them as.
Well, I could sum it up. There's overly competitive,
Mhm,
smothering,
mhm,
hypersexual, using that sexuality.
mhm,
Yeah, overly aggressive. I mean, defending yourself's one thing, and not
mhm.
taking crap off of somebody is one thing, but attacking and in people's faces. And it, yeah, there's narcissistic behaviors there, but
Yeah,
that
that's what I was
they're
gonna
all,
say.
yeah, the narcissistic woman,
It's very narcissistic. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So the thing that I have seen that I want to share with everybody, I've had this issue my whole life because I was born divine feminine, and because I'm here to bring back the Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene, the divine feminine, to the planet. That was one of the reasons I came in. So I embody that always. So I'm very, very feminine, and women who are extremely masculine hate my guts because I'm just so feminine. They can't stand being around me. They don't like it. Women who are secure with their femininity like me, but the women who are very masculine, they do not like me. And so what I have seen in my own life, going back to childhood, is that many generations of women are teaching their daughters this toxic feminism where you use your body, like you said, sexually to
Yeah.
get what you want. You use your sex appeal or whatever sex to get what you want in life, whether it's to get a rich husband or to get a job or, bamboozle a boss or a coworker, or this, you use your feminine wiles, as they call them, to do that. You are competitive against other women. You backstab them. I've been the victim of toxic females my whole life, where they're constantly, even going back to childhood, where the girls are constantly backstabbing me, competing against me, causing trouble for me, gossiping about me continuously, getting pushed out of all the women's little cliques. They do their little clique thing, and then they push out all of the other women and don't include them and gossip about them and make trouble for them, and on and on and on and on. And it even happens in the schools, where I remember as a child, even having these female teachers who would treat the boys differently than the girls. The teachers are all part of this whole thing too. And they treat the boys and girls in a certain way that is very draconian. and part of that whole draconian plan, because of course all the school system's been infiltrated by the draconians. So it's a draconian school system. Basically it's a cabal school system. So they've done that. And then all of these women who do not teach their daughters how to be fair and loving and embrace other women and lift them up. To me, the divine feminine is what you and I do for each other. Love and support each other, lift each other up, collaboration. I'm always collaborating with other women. I'm not trying to compete against other women. I'm not gossiping about them. I'm not making trouble for them. I'm trying to lift all my sisters up and help them. That is what I'm doing. And that is the divine, to me, the biggest part of the divine feminine versus the toxic feminine is the toxic feminine have a constant need to attack. All the other women think they're better than us. You know, I'm not kidding. Going all the way back to childhood, I've had girls that were harassing me because I wasn't wearing designer clothes. You know, they were from rich families and I was from a very poor family. And so they were, you know, bullying me because I wasn't wearing nice designer clothes every day. I got abused for that. I didn't have long, my mother would chop my hair off really short, and all the other girls had their hair really long. I got harassed about that because they said I'd look like a boy, and, you know, on and on and on and on. But instead of coming together as girls or as women and supporting each other and acting like sisters, it's attack, 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 attack every chance they get, and one up you, and I'm better than you, and stealing your boyfriends away. I don't know how many boyfriends I had stolen away from me by other women. And I've had people say, well, that guy didn't deserve you anyways, if they were that dumb to go off with the other. And I agree with that, but it takes two to tango. It's not just the guy's fault. The fact that that girl was a friend of mine, supposedly, if somebody is your friend, you don't go and steal their boyfriend or their husband from them. If they're really your friend, you put that friendship as being very important. You put it up on a high pedestal as, this is my friend. I'm going to protect and love and support my friend. Protecting and loving and supporting a friend doesn't look like backstabbing them and stealing their boyfriend or their husband. So this is a big thing that goes on. I mean, my husband and I watch all of these. We love British mystery shows. We watch all the different British mysteries. The newest ones we're watching are Madame Blanc, which is supposed to be in southern France. It's not really filmed there. It's really filmed in what's it called, Malta, and the island next to Malta. But it's supposed to be in France, and they speak a lot of French in the show. And you've got this thing again with women stealing other women's husbands from them. And it's all over on the TV. They show it over and over again, and they're promoting it and glorifying it like it's a good thing. Yeah. And so what I've noticed is in the last 100 years, the television, the movies, the magazines, the newspapers, all that kind of stuff, all of social media now, today we have social media, it all pushes and glorifies and reinforces this toxic female, toxic male thing. That, and then, yeah. and then getting rid of the sexes of the people, trying to turn all the women male and all the males women. This is what they're doing in society. And I'm personally sick and tired of it. I've had about enough. And I, thank God, have gone overboard to raise my children. I have one boy, one girl, and I've gone out of my way to raise them to embody more of the divine feminine and divine masculine, like they should. And, you know, I did the best I can, but unfortunately they were a product also of that damn school system, because I had them in public schools. And even the private schools are infiltrated. You know, you can't, just because you put them in a private school. I've heard teachers in private school doing even more horrible things than the ones in the public. So it doesn't matter. It's the whole school system has got to be scrapped, because all of those teachers are molding our children to be these little toxic creatures. Right. And again, it's all part of the agenda. So, so do you have anything else you want to say about kind of like the difference between the two? Is there anything before we kind of move on to what can we do to change this in society?
No, I think you hit it. You were exactly right, especially with the television, you know. Watching The Bachelor, where all the women are backstabbing and competing for one, and it's crazy. Like,
Yeah.
really want that, but that is the mentality, and it's really pushed on us.
Right. Oh, I just thought of something. It just came in. I think my boss is like actually nudging me to talk about this. What do you call it? Fashion shows, or not fashion shows? What do you call those? The women's like Miss America, pageants. That's the word I wanted. Yeah,
Yeah,
pageants.
yeah.
I just heard just now, the pageants are like the biggest toxic, like causing thing. They're terrible because they objectify women. They've been parading. They've never ever had, the only male pageants they ever had was, I had an uncle who passed away. He died of a heart attack. This was back when I was a little girl. He died. I think he died when I was like 9, maybe something, but he was Mr. America at one time. He was like he did bodybuilding. Those were
Mhm.
the only male competitions that they've ever had, were those bodybuilding competitions. But they would have all of these, women's pageants going all the way back to, I don't know when they started. They started sometime in the early 1900s, I think, with the pageants. That's another whole venue for sexualizing and objectifying women and treating them like they're these little, arm pieces. And, there's all these men too that are raised to think, oh, you have to go get a trophy wife and they're your little arm piece, and, not looking at them as an equal partner. Kind of like, okay, let's talk about this for a second. The lifetime that you and I had was with Akhenaten and Isis. Or I mean, not Isis, I'm sorry, Akhenaten and Nefertiti. Okay.
Correct.
But we worshipped Isis back then. We worshipped the goddess Isis.
Yes.
Nefertiti and Akhenaten. Okay. So I was the second eldest daughter, and you were the sister. Well, except, do you want to talk about that? Who you
Why
were?
not?
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
Out
Because
there? So I have memories, and it's come out over a few sessions, and now I remember it very clearly. I was Tut's mother. I'll just throw it out there.
yeah.
And I remember them taking my baby, and they gave him to Nefertiti, who, again, what I believe at the time really embodied that. How can I say it kindly? The downside
The
of feminism.
negative side of feminism. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yep. And they were what was called co-consorts or co-rulers. They were the only ones in Egyptian history that were co-rulers,
yeah.
meaning they equally ruled, because it was always a male pharaoh that was ruling, with the
Mhm.
exception of like Cleopatra, obviously, who was a
Right,
female leader. But they were like twin flame, because they were Akhenaten and Nefertiti were twin flames, but they were co-rulers. They
right.
did everything equal. And
Mhm.
so this messing with the divine feminine even goes back
Yep,
further than 1900s and whatever. I mean, it goes all the way back for a long time. And that's because Nefertiti and Akhenaten were, what were they? They were the Anunnaki. They were Anunnakis. And the Anunnaki are the ones who corrupted humanity the worst, because they were the ones who took the human template and downgraded us to two strand of DNA from 12 and higher. We used to be 12 and higher. They downgraded us to two
right,
strand, and then they changed us from crystalline to these carbon-based bodies. So what happens as a result? We have very short lives. Very short lives. We used to live 1,000 years, and now we live, I mean, back then, hell, look at their son Tet, who died like as a kid. He was still a kid when he died of disease or whatever it was that he died of. And so people would die like at age 12, age 20, age 30, age 40. And now the life expectancy is maybe what, 70s or something like that, for humans, upper 70s, like 78 or something like that. We used to live 1,000 years. Well, these Anunnakis are the ones who messed us up and changed us so we'd be a slave race, and so we'd suffer, because when we suffer with illness, I talk about this in Ascension 101. When you suffer with illness, that is the leash for the demons that are on this earth. There's 81 billion demons on this earth, because there's 9 demons for every human. That's what Yeshua told me, that for every human, there's 9 demons. So there's 81 billion demons here who drain our loosh all day long when we suffer. And then the Draco reptilians, it's the same thing. It's ambrosia to them when we're suffering and we're getting sick. And so they edited us down, and Nefertiti and her husband were 2 of those lovely Anunnakis. And unfortunately, in that lifetime, I was also an Anunnaki. It was my one bad. I was telling Wendie before we came on earlier that I had one lifetime where I was not a nice person. All my lifetimes that I've been on this earth, I'm always a healer and a spiritual teacher. And in this one lifetime, I was bad. And I was told by my team, my guides, that I did that so I could walk in the shoes of the darkness, so I could fight the darkness really dirty, because they fight dirty. You need to be able to match them up. And if you don't understand how they operate, I say the same thing for Mr. T, who people bash all the time. They bash him, and they're like, oh, but he was seen with Epstein and this one and that one. And it's like, well, yeah, you have to walk amongst the dark ones to and infiltrate them in order to understand them from the inside out. It's kind of like when a spy goes into an organization and they can literally take the whole organization down from the inside out.
Right.
There was a whole bunch of cardinals in the Vatican that were able to take down the Black Pope and take down the whole, because they were, they infiltrated the bad thing, and they got in there and they were hanging with the bad ones, but they weren't bad themselves. Well, that was me with my incarnation. I came in and I learned how to, what's that term? If you can't beat them, join them. So I joined them for one lifetime so that now I can beat them. It's the opposite.
Yep.
Because
Now you have
I'm going to beat them, but in order to beat them, I had to have a lifetime where I was one of them so I could understand how they operate.
yes.
So yeah. So do you want to share with everybody your ideas for things that people on earth can do right now? Like, what can I do right now in my life every day to try to make sure that we correct this problem and get people to go back to the divine masculine and divine feminine? What are some things we can start doing, do you think?
Well, the wild woman is an archetype that it embodies the wisdom. It embodies all of it. It embodies the crone, the virgin, all of it together. I feel like the wild woman. She's got it. She looks inside for her answers. She's not pushed. She's not swayed. She's independent, but at the same time, she can stand next to divine masculine. And then there's this beautiful energy flow between the two. But when that is inverted by society or structural programming from a parent or whatever, schooling, I feel like though we stop looking inside, like when we're not protected, we don't have what we need on the outside. Like in society now, I mean, I work a full-time job. My husband works a full-time job. Then who's taking care of the home and the kids? And it really doesn't give me a lot of time to be the divine priestess or woman that I know I am. So we've had to, in society, carve that out. If you want that, you have to carve it out. And I think that we get so busy that we are so busy looking outside to make sure we're safe, and we have what we need to pay the car payment, and we have what we need to put food on the table for our kids, and we make sure that we're picking the kids up on time at school. And there's just so many other things that we're being distracted with that we stop looking inside. And once we start looking back inside and realizing our own divinity, we're able to then express that again and then assist others in expressing that as well. And if you look at every male as is your son, that's somebody's son, and it'll get you to treat people differently, to treat men differently. Because I think that the inverted feminine, the toxic feminine attracts the toxic masculine. And believe that the divine feminine attracts the divine masculine. And I think that we just keep looking in and carve out your niche, find yourself, find your inner wisdom, your inner wild woman, and express her. She's there. And that's going to be what brings, as Gaia raises her frequency and we go up higher in dimensions, she is the ultimate, the original true feminine, divine feminine. So as she expresses herself and her energy flows through us, this toxic masculinity will eventually start falling away. And it is. We see it crumbling now, if you look around. It's just we have to hang in there long enough to see the whole thing topple. But I think that our divine feminine is really what's going to empower and bring into fruition everything that's going to save the planet, basically.
Wow.
And society and our children. So
yeah, I love that. And for all of you who don't, do you want to tell everybody for who don't know about this wild woman thing where they can find that? Because I saw the poster in a bathroom in a naturopathic, or I think it was a naturopath or a chiropractor or something like that's office years ago. I saw that wild woman poster and I was like, what the heck is this? And started reading it and it resonated so much with me. So
I don't know. I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen it for, okay.
No. But there was called Women Who Run with the Wolves.
It's Women Who Run with the Wolves. That one, that poster.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. It's a Women Who Runs with the Wolves poster, but she called it the Wild Woman or whatever archetype and had all the information on it. Yeah.
That was a book.
You know the author's name? Do you remember? Because I don't remember her name. It was so many years ago.
3 a.m.
Okay. So you guys look up Women Who Run with the Wolves. It's a really, really good one for women to read. I think men need to read it too, so they can support their wives and their daughters and their sisters and their mothers and all that. I think it's important for men to understand. And that for me is also a part of men reclaiming their divine masculine, is trying to understand women instead of putting women in a little box and saying they're an object and they're this and that. Instead, think of them as your daughter and your mother and your sister and treat them with respect and kindness and try to understand what makes them tick and why they're so different. Because what a lot of men are not taught from childhood is that women are dominated a lot with a lot of hormonal stuff. You know, we get PMS at our periods. We go through menopause and we have a lot of emotional stuff that, is totally impacted by our hormones. And I mean, the only time men are really impacted by hormones is when they're going through that little change when they're 12, 13, whatever it is, when men start to get more of their, they go through the hormone change or whatever they call it for men. That's about the only time. The rest of their life, they don't really tend to have, unless as they get older, they could have testosterone, like too low of testosterone or something, which is caused by all the xenoestrogens from the toxins and all the bad stuff in our environment, which is also being created to screw with our sex, with everything. All of that bad stuff, it messes with our female reproductive organs and it messes with the male stuff and causes prostate cancer and low testosterone and all of that. But to me, it would really behoove the men out there to make an effort. If you want to embrace your divine masculine, you need to do it by being the protector of your family, really protecting your wife and supporting your wife and your children, your daughters, your mothers, your sisters, really loving and supporting them and protecting them. And also reading some information to better understand the female psyche so you can understand what makes a woman more tick instead of, and it's the same for women. Women need to read about men, what makes their psychology the way it is so that we understand each other. Because to me, that's like a big way to move through all this is if we understand or understand, I hate the word under, if we understand better, because words are spells, right?
Yeah.
So if we understand better, if I spend time studying about how males operate and my husband studied about what makes a woman, I think we get along better. My husband and I get into a lot of arguments because he doesn't understand women. And a lot of them are based in the fact that he doesn't get when women have a hormonal headache, or when women are having heavy flooding menstrual periods with cramps where they can't get off the couch. And he's all pissy because myself or my daughter can't like help out or do this or do that in the house, when we're like totally dying on the couch with, massive, I don't have them anymore. I'm post menopause, but my daughter, he never ever understood, like he doesn't. And I've always said to him, I hope that you reincarnate as a woman so that you can see what it's like, because he's actually downright mean when we're going through female kind of issues. He's actually been mean because he doesn't understand it. And he doesn't embody that divine masculine, because he's been trained to be the toxic masculine. And so he doesn't understand that women go through this, and he doesn't support it, want to support it and nurture it. And so to me, training men to understand women better and understand the cycles we go through, and that we get moody, and that we have these body issues that we have our whole lives because we have a uterus, and we have hormones, we have female hormones, plus we're intuitive, they need to start. I'm getting hot, so I'm taking my sweater off. I've got the sun beating in the window here, which is a good thing. So I think that they need to understand us, and we need to understand them. I think we need to make an effort on both sides to understand or understand each other. I have to keep trying to train myself to say understand. But I think we need to understand each other better. I think we need to learn more. Women need to learn more about men, and they learn more about us. That's one way. And then to me, the biggest thing that women need to do is stop bullying other women. Mean Girls is a serious thing. I mean, they made a movie called Mean Girls. Okay. Women are horrible to each other. My son even notices this. Yeah. My son has said to me on various occasions, why are women so horrible to each other? He said, Mom, I cannot believe how mean girls are to other girls and women are to women. He said, I don't see that happen with guys. You don't see guys doing that to each other ever. It's always, they always have what's called the good old boys club. The men all support each other. They all support each other. Women need to step up to the plate and emulate that. They need to start having the good old girls club. We need to all be sisters and slap each other on the back and say, way to go, sister. Yes. Lift each other up, motivate each other, raise each other up. It's kind of like that song, You Raise Me Up, so I can stand on mountains. Women need to start raising each other up. We need to collaborate, which is what I've been doing my whole life, collaborating with other women, encouraging my friends, supporting my friends. I've told my girlfriends many times, I will march to the gates of hell for you and pull you out. Just like Hercules went in for Deianira, whatever her name was, his love, and pulled her out of Hades. I would do that for a friend. And that is how it should be. That is how it should be, is I would march to the gates of hell and pull my friend right out of there, and save her ass, because I embody the divine feminine. So I want to support all my sisters. I don't want to put them down and say nasty things to them and talk shit behind their backs and steal their boyfriends. And, I have no interest in that, or steal their business. I've had so many women steal my proprietary classes from me, book information from me, and then use it and pass it off as their own. Or I'll tell them something in secret and say, don't tell anyone. And they go tell everybody. Or, it's just ridiculous. It goes on and on and on. All the offenses that have been done to me since I was 2 years of age by other girls and other women, all the things that they've done. I've very rarely in my life, I have had some men do some shitty things to me in my life, but not anywhere near as much as the women in my life. Yeah. And that's got to stop. It's ridiculous.
I agree.
Yep. So do you have any other ideas for people of ways that they could help further this effort along?
Well, you talked about Hercules.
Yeah.
Going in and saving Diana. What's her name?
Deianira. I think it was like Deianira. Yeah.
The divine masculine coming in and saving her. Now she's not a victim. She didn't need saved. But with his assistance, she was able to pull out. Mm-hmm. And like divine masculine's assistance and that inspiration, and we feel, when women feel safe and protected, then we have that space to go inside and look inside of ourselves
Do the work.
and allow that to come out and become that divine spiritual goddess that we are put here to be. So I think really looking within yourself and finding that within yourself and seeing the difference between what is pushed on us and given to us on the outside, and then who we really are on the inside. It comes from a lot of introspection. And I think once we're able to look inside of ourselves and cultivate who we really are and bring that out, I think that that's really going to make a difference in society. But again, we have to carve that out. You have to, it doesn't just happen. It doesn't just land in your lap. So relying on each other, the sisterhood is important. And raising our sons with the awareness of how to treat women. And if we treat them and raise them to be their divine masculine selves, and they're going to understand, they're going to be raised with the knowledge. You know, it's like when this might be too much, but if you tell your son, you know, like you were saying, you know, I'm on my period and my cramps and it's horrible. My sons would understand that, and they would be kind and loving about it. I know there's men out there that wouldn't, but if we raise our sons with that love and that compassion toward them, they will find that compassion as well. And the understanding will just come naturally.
Awesome. So I think we covered that pretty much. What I want to do now is I actually want you to tell everybody a little bit about what you did for me, because it was so freaking amazing. I had this session with Wendie, and she was able to go in and kind of talk to my higher self to get, so I need to explain this to you all who haven't heard me say it before. When you are a psychic, it's really hard to see your own stuff and like your family, your immediate family, because you have your ego and your emotions in there. And so they create a block. And so I have all kinds of psychics who come to me for private sessions. Why? Because I can look at their family, like their husband, their wives, their kids, their parent. I can look at that, and I can, I'm non-biased. I don't have any emotional attachment to those people. I don't know them. I'm able to stick my ego in a box or whatever, you know, and it doesn't interfere. But when it's your own self and it's your family, you can't do that. And so just like these psychics come to me, I have to go to other psychics to work with. And so I went to Wendie because I was having some issues, which I'm not going to go into because it's my personal issues. But Wendie, will you tell everybody, because it was so amazing. You did the session where you went in and you talked to my higher self, and she held your hand and you went up to my soul star. And can you tell everybody about that? Because it was the coolest thing ever. And she saw so much stuff. It was just awesome.
Well, do you want me to tell just about
well,
what
not
we
about
did?
my, well, not
Okay.
like my personal stuff, but like, what do you do for people? Like, how do you do that? What do you do in a session? Like, exactly how do these sessions work? Like
Okay.
what you're doing? Because it's so awesome.
Well, through hypnosis sessions, with Paige Garcia, over and over, a couple times a week now, I'm under, and I started out the beginning, we went to my soul star, and I didn't know everybody had a soul star. I didn't know that the stars were actually our consciousness. I thought like everybody else did, it's just this ball of fire in the sky, right? It is not. They're sheer consciousness, and those are our souls up there. So when you look up at the stars, remember that one of those is your soul. So through that and going into my own soul star, I realized I could go into other people's soul stars. So with permission, take the hand, or sometimes some people, one woman had an escalator. She said, why walk or why? She wanted to take an escalator, but we go up to the soul star. And in each soul star, I have found there's a tree and a book to the left. And in that book, it's a book of lifetimes. And the higher self or other guides can take us into certain lifetimes that are in that book. In the tree, there's different botanicals, and they could be from different lifetimes. We've had some type of fruit that I didn't even recognize from the Pleiades that was in one person's soul star. We've had olives, somebody that used olive oil quite a bit. There was olive there.
Actually, that was me. I had all the olive oil and all. Love my
there,
olives.
yeah. So in that tree, these are different things, favorite things from different lifetimes. Healing items. There's usually a crystal room. Sometimes there's a room full of animals. If the person is in charge of animals, there's a room full of animals. I've had a woman who had a room in the back that was full of dragons, little baby dragons and dragon eggs. So as we go through the soul star, we travel to different lifetimes where they need healed. That's where the guides will usually show us. Higher self will say, okay, this is the lifetime you need to go to. So we go to that lifetime, we can see what's happening. And once we're in there, we can work on some healing and some shifting of perceptions that really makes a difference in the person's everyday life. And up at the top of the soul star, there is this cord, many cords that come down into each lifetime. So when I see that cord that's coming down, I can see the color, and I can see if there's black or red in that cord. And if there's black or red in the cord, then we address that and we figure out what that is. And we go into that lifetime and work with that. And there could be anything from attachments to demonic entities. There's different beings that like to feed upon people in different lifetimes. So we go in and we pluck those out. We either positively polarize them or we remove them. They go back to source. But it's a very healing session. I'm so glad you enjoyed yours. I was honored.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was awesome. It was fun. It was exciting. It was awesome. It was also super emotional. We were crying, and yeah, it was very, very, very cool. So I obviously still needed healing around my lifetime with Yeshua. I had a lot of trauma in that life, like tons of trauma, and I don't know if I healed the snake pit incident from when they murdered me in the snake pit when I was Nefertiti's second eldest daughter. They stuck me in a cobra pit and killed. I'm terrified of snakes, absolutely terrified of snakes, because I was murdered in a cobra pit. Yeah, with your son, right? They threw your son in there with me, I believe, wasn't it? Or no, it wasn't your son, it was somebody else's son. There was somebody else's, I talked to, who was it? I talked to Karen or something, and she said somebody's son was in there with me.
My son was Tut.
Your son was King Tut, but it was somebody else's son was in there, was thrown in there with me. I can't remember whose it was, but yeah, we were murdered. So they didn't like us doing our Anunnaki thing or whatever it was we were doing. So
they wanted to throw that regime.
Yeah, they had to overthrow it and everything. So it's interesting. So these are all wonderful modalities. I love that I'm able to connect with my sisters like this, like Wendie, and we all have complementary, because I don't do hypnotherapy on people, and Wendie does hypnosis. She does aura hypnosis. So I have a lot of you contact me and ask me for past life regressions, and I don't do that. And so Wendie would be a really good person to go see for that, because she does the aura hypnosis, which helps you go in and heal your past lives and all that, which is really amazing, right?
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. So, because people ask me all the time, I get emails, because I ask in the form, why do you want a session with Kimberly? And they'll say, I want to, heal my past lives, or I want to look at my past lives. Well, I don't do that. I mean, I can, I don't do soul scans anymore. I was doing soul scans where I was going in and looking at like how many lifetimes and where they were and what they were and all that. But I've been banned from doing that kind of work anymore. Now I'm just teaching people how to get the information themselves and how to heal themselves, and teaching them metaphysics and spiritual protection and just everything, healing, balancing, all the different things. But I used to do soul readings for people, and I'm not doing them anymore. So in the future, when you guys want to know your past lives, Wendie is a good reference and resource for that. And I'm going to put her, she doesn't have a website right now. She's got an email and a phone number. So I will put her contact information in the description below, so you guys can contact her. If you are interested in looking at past lifetimes, since I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to do that. That's not my thing anymore. So if you want to do that, I'll put that in there. And is there any other, you do Reiki healing too, right? You do Reiki healing sessions. So if you guys want a Reiki healing session, I don't do Reiki healing on people. I'm actually a level 2 Reiki practitioner, but I learned that because I'm actually here to be a launcher and a spiritual teacher to healers. So I have a class on energy medicine and a class on sound medicine. And I have all these classes I teach for people who want to do healing, but I'm not here to do Reiki on people and do that kind of stuff. So if you guys want a Reiki session, contact Wendie as well. Is there anything else you want to share with everybody that might be of interest as far as how you work or what you do, or any other services that you want to talk about?
Not that I can think of off the top of
Not
my
that you
head.
can think of. Okay. So, and I will tell you all, Wendie's not used to coming on a video like this. So she's feeling kind of shy today and nervous, just to let you all know, because she's not done this before. This is her first time. So thank you so much for moving out of your comfort zone for me. I really appreciate that. And I'm so grateful that you are willing to push yourself out of your comfort zone to do this with me today, because I think we need to be having these kinds of conversations on video and on YouTube more frequently with our sisters, so that we can spread this information. It's very important for people to learn about all of these subjects, like the divine masculine and divine feminine, and just all of these subjects. We need to keep the conversations going until everyone on earth has got it figured out. That's all we can do. And I'm getting like all these chills all over the top of my head right now, because it's like, that's the truth. My guides are standing behind me and they're kind of like, yeah, you tell them, yeah. So we need, the more that we have these kind of conversations, the more we share this kind of information. I really feel that's how we move ahead into the ascension. We need to get the information out there, and teach people how to change, what to do. If you're somebody, and I want to say these last information, okay, if you're somebody who that for a fact that you're not embodying the divine feminine or the divine masculine, we're not here to shame you. We're not here to judge you. We're not here to smack you on your hands. But now that you get an understanding of what this is, you can make an effort to change yourself. And we appreciate that. And we appreciate you. And we don't have anything against people who are, because everyone in my life is all this toxic, stuff. And so I'm not going to judge on them. I'm not discriminating against them. I'm not finger pointing at them. I'm just trying to educate so people can see, oh, wow, do I really do that? Oh my gosh, I need to stop doing that and make some changes in your life.
Yeah.
That's all we're asking.
Yeah. Inspire personal growth.
Yeah, everybody, because I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. I do stupid things from time to time. I'm a human, I'm learning forever. And just like I always tell people, I might be a teacher, but I am not a know-it-all at all. In fact, I know such a tiny amount compared to what's in the universe, like the thing with the stars. I mean, I just found this out that in this life, in recent years, very recent years, that for every star in the heavens, there's a grain of sand on Earth. So there's like unlimited, it goes into infinity, the number of stars. Why? Because as Wendie put it, each one of those represents a different soul. So all of the souls who are on Earth, they have a soul star. They have a soul star. And what's really fascinating about the soul star theory is I have a dear friend. I'm not going to say her name because I don't know if she wants me to blab about her. So I'm not going to say her name, but I will tell you that since I've known her, she's been explaining to me how she feels like she's kind of like out, how do you want to say, strange, because when she looks at the stars, they dance for her. And I did a reading for her, and what I found out is that she was a star at one time. She was a star consciousness, and the stars are like her family, almost, like, she's connected to them, and that is why they're dancing for her. She isn't crazy. She's not having vision problems. She's not mental, whatever. She's not doing mushrooms or anything like that. It's, she's not doing a hallucinogen. The stars are actually communicating with her. And the reason why is because they have consciousness. Every single planet and star in space has a consciousness. And I just learned this in recent years. I had no clue about that because I've been into astronomy since I was a kid, but I always looked at it from a scientific perspective. I never looked at it as, oh, those actually are consciousness.
Wow. Yeah.
So we're learning all these things. So that's why it's important to work with people like Wendie and myself. So you can, get to know all these new, things, and you can keep growing on your journey. We're both here to help you on your journey. And I will again put Wendie's contact info in. Is there any last minute advice, because you are an Ascension guide? Is there anything you want to share with everybody as far as things that they should be focusing on every day to really help them with their ascension? Because that's what we do on this channel.
Well, aside from the divine masculine feminine that we were talking about, I would just say communicate with every cell in your body. Every cell is conscious, and every cell is another universe, and communicate with them. If you've got something's wrong, your wrist hurts, fill it with that blue flame and communicate with those cells. Talk to them, ask them what they need, give them the light and the love that they need, and work on healing your body. That'll
Awesome.
raise your.
Awesome. I love that. That's perfect. And I just learned this also in recent years, that I can talk to my cells. I never knew that. That's something new. I keep learning something new every day. I'm always going to be learning something new every day, but that's something I've learned very recently, that I can talk to my cells. I can say, I command all my cells to be healed and made whole and be resurrected to their perfect divine blueprint, and that kind of stuff. You can do that.
Yeah.
So, and send love to them. Say, I love every cell in my body. I love my body, loving on all the parts of your body. If your knee hurts, you put both your hands on it and you send it love and just say, I love you, knee. I see you perfect and whole. Thank you for healing so quickly. Thanking your body, I think, is really important.
Yes.
Thanking your body for being a quick healer, and for being resilient and strong and healthy, and that kind of thing. I think it's really important, giving gratitude for the body. So
I agree, definitely.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Wendie, for joining me today. And I hope this has been helpful for all of you. If you've liked this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Share it with your friends. And this is going to be up on YouTube and probably Rumble. I usually put them on YouTube, and then they get sucked over to Rumble, because Rumble's got some kind of thing where it transfers over on its own after a certain amount of time. I'm not sure, but I'm going to go ahead and put this up, and thank you all. And I hope to see you next time. Bye.
Thank you.